We got some terrible news to get to on Seahawks wide receiver Jaxon Smith-Njigba. Tyler Jones, your fearless leader, here with you. Thanks for joining us. Coming up on today's show, we are going to talk about what in the hell is going on with JSN, as there was some other things that happened in the National Football League this week that have a direct effect on Smith-Njigba and your Seattle Seahawks. We'll explain exactly what that is and more coming up in just a matter of moments. Folks, your fearless leader is about to take a much-needed vacation before football season. I am off to the great city of Phoenix. I will be enjoying myself and the ladies and everything that comes with Phoenix out there. But here's what I'm willing to do. I am taking paid time off, okay? I am being paid not to work next week. But training camp is starting. So here is my offer to you all. I am willing and able to do content on my vacation, maybe from the poolside, shirtless, maybe from my hotel room, I don't know where, if we can get 50 subs off today's video. Does that sound like a deal, my friends? I will give up part of my vacation to give you guys more Seahawks news. If you're up for that, subscribe now for free, youtube.com/SeahawksTV, and we'll get started with today's show. Some terrible news to get to today on Jaxon Smith-Njigba. In case you missed it earlier this week, Jets wide receiver Garrett Wilson signed an extension with the New York Jets, and that has ramifications on Jaxon Smith-Njigba and the Seattle Seahawks. We'll explain more coming up in just a moment. Let's start with this from ESPN's Adam Schefter, who tweeted out the news about Garrett Wilson earlier this week, saying the following. ESPN sources, Jets and wide receiver Garrett Wilson reached an agreement on a 4-year, $130 million contract extension that includes $90 million guaranteed. It marks the first time in NFL history that a receiver has received an average of over $31 million after playing only 3 seasons. Wilson now will be under contract the next 6 seasons through 2030. Agents Jeff Nally and Graylin Crane of CAA negotiated the deal with Jets executives Nick Sabella and Darren Mogi. So now back to Seattle, how this relates. Oh, shit. Folks, Garrett Wilson got paid a lot of money. And now as we're starting to connect the dots, okay, how does this go back to Seattle and JSN? I know he's only 2 years into the league at this point, but now we should already start to be talking about an extension for Jaxon Smith-Njigba. And with Garrett Wilson getting paid that type of money, that means when JSN gets paid, his price tag went way up. All right? He is going to cost a big chunk of change for Seattle. And I think, at the very least right now, we're looking at Jaxon Smith-Njigba getting $30 million per year. And by the time that they get to the negotiating table and other wide receivers across the league also get paid, that number might only go up from there, from that $30 million mark, which is very, very high at this point. Here are 5 things you need to know. JSN is entering his 3rd season in the NFL with the Seattle Seahawks. He is currently under contract with Seattle through 2027, as he's on a rookie contract that doesn't pay him a ton, just a 4-year, $14.4 million deal. And he is eligible to sign an extension next summer. So it'll be here before we know it, folks, before we're talking about JSN potentially getting paid. And he will almost certainly receive the 5th-year option that would be tacked on to his 4-year rookie contract that is only eligible for first-round picks. I know it sounds like a lot of cash already, but from what I've seen the last 2 years from Jaxon Smith-Njigba, specifically what we saw this season, I think he's going to be worth it. Now, does it make things easy? No, because now with all these young players that Seattle has, you got to start getting the checkbook out, paying guys like JSN, Devin Witherspoon, Boye Mafe, Charles Cross. You get the idea here, and that starts to add up. If I'm Seattle, I think the smart move here is to go ahead and just take care of this as soon as possible. When you get to next summer, when he's eligible for that extension, I would go ahead and pay him. I've seen enough from JSN where I'm fully confident that he is going to be a star player in this league for a very long time. And so with that being the case, let's go ahead and wrap this up and get this extension taken care of and save money down the road from that price tag continuing to climb on that front. Now let's ask you, put your GM hat on here on Seahawks Today. Should the Hawks extend JSN next summer, or would you rather them wait a bit? You got two options here. Type Y for yes, in for no. You might get an ad break while the ad's playing. Get your votes in. Let us know what you think. This is a big year for Jaxon Smith-Njigba entering 2025. He had a solid rookie campaign, and then he took a huge step up in his second season, going from the number 3 receiver to now the undisputed number 1 wideout. And he outplayed DK Metcalf last season. It's a different role than what DK was in. DK was more of a vertical threat, JSN more of a possession receiver. But it's not just that he's now the undisputed number 1 receiver. Even though he's only in year 3 and he's, 23 years of age, he's now the leader of this receiver group as well. They will go as far as he takes them. Cooper Kupp may be the oldest guy of the bunch, but everyone's eyes, everyone's attention is going to be paid on the star, the future, that is JSN. And just this past week, JSN did an interview with King 5 TV in Seattle, and he was asked about taking on this leadership role, and he said this: "It's a role that I work every day. To be a leader, and for guys to follow. I want the team to know that I'm going to be ready when those moments that they need me." So then the next question becomes, with DK not there anymore, Tyler Lockett also gone as well, how does he handle more attention? And that's in two different ways, right? One of those is more focus from opposing defenses that they face, but also more of the limelight. I think more people are going to be talking about Jaxon Smith-Njigba, and he's going to become more of a superstar across the National Football League. He's probably already at a point where he gets recognized everywhere he goes in Seattle. How does that affect him as he goes forward from here? And I feel pretty confident that he's going to be just fine with both those things. But time will tell, and we shall see. JSN coming off a season where he led the Seahawks in both receiving yards, catches, and touchdowns. Named to his first Pro Bowl for the former first-round pick out of Ohio State. We mentioned Garrett Wilson earlier. They were teammates together at Ohio State, so you have to imagine that he was following that situation closely of Garrett Wilson getting paid. And when you look at the numbers, this we're talking about how much he stepped up. Did anyone on this Seahawks team take more of a dramatic jump than JSN? The answer is no. His targets went way up from 93 to 137. His receptions went up from 63 to 100. His yards went up from 628 to 1,130. And his average went up from 10 to 11.3. And his touchdowns went up from 4 to 6. And the telling point for me that makes me feel pretty confident about JSN was when there was that stretch in time last season when DK Metcalf got injured. And we were all saying to ourselves, okay, now this is JSN's time. Is JSN ready for this moment to be that number 1 option and to take more attention on? And not only was JSN ready for it, he embraced it. And he played some of his best football of the entire season when DK Metcalf wasn't on the football field. And I still think that when we look at the on-field product for JSN, that he still has more work to do. As Kobe Bryant once said, the job's not finished. And I think JSN, his best football is still ahead of him, that this guy is just getting started. And his teammates are noticing. We're going to let you hear from Cooper Kupp, one of his new teammates, coming up in just a moment. Do you believe in Jaxon Smith-Njigba? You got two options here. Type B for believe, D for don't. Weigh in the comments section and tell us if you are all in on JSN or not. Now, these two have not played together too long when we talk about Jaxon Smith-Njigba and Cooper Kupp. It has been a short relationship between the two, just a few months. But what we've already seen is that they are gelling already. JSN, he talked about towards the beginning of OTAs that he and Cooper Kupp have already had some great conversations, that he's learned a lot from him. Cooper Kupp has said that he reminds him a lot of Puka Nacua, his teammate there with the Los Angeles Rams. And Cooper Kupp was recently on Good Morning Football on the NFL Network, and he had this to say on JSN. The first thing that struck me is that he's a lot stronger and plays a lot stronger than people know about Jaxon. There's a play strength that comes along with that, being able to be on the field. His decisiveness, his belief in himself and what he can do, and then being able to go out there and make it happen. He's incredibly competitive. I think, all in all, when we talk about Jaxon Smith-Njigba, the potential is there. I don't think anybody's going to argue about his talent level. We've seen it already. Now, what this comes down to is execution and finding his role within Clint Kubiak's offense, Cooper Kupp and him getting on the same page. I know that there's a lot of you that have some bad blood towards Geno Smith, and I understand where you're coming from. But credit to Geno in the development of JSN, of how much he and JSN were on the same page. And that really clicked last offseason, as the reports were that JSN was already looking like Geno's go-to guy at this time last year, and that paid off down the road. And you hope that he can have that same type of connection here with Sam Darnold as well. For more Seahawks coverage, subscribe now to Seattle Seahawks Today, youtube.com/SeahawksTV. I'm Tyler Jones. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.